Hello everyone and welcome back to the 30-day at-home handstand challenge. This is session number 3. We're going to be moving into the next phase of our learning where the primary focus is going to be on strengthening the shoulders, opening up the overhead position, and then also starting to understand the position that we need to have in the body when we're on the hands. For the session today, we're going to need some wall space, so make sure you have a spot on the wall where you can work on a handstand and then also have that dowel nearby because we're going to need it for the shoulders again. If you got it, let's jump into the warm-up. All right, to begin the warm-up today, we're going to start with some shoulders. Feet together as we're standing on the floor, arms on your sides. We're going to do 10 backward circles and 10 forward circles, making sure the arms come all the way up to the ears and as far around the back of you as you can. Try and make the biggest circles possible, 10 times. Don't let the body move, just the arms. Once you've done 10 backwards, you're going to go 10 forwards. Now, arms on the sides, we're going to try to lift the shoulders all the way up to the ears and then all the way back down, 10 times. Now some shoulder circles, backwards 10 times. And forwards. Feel those traps working. Reach one arm all the way up as high as you can. You're gonna go ahead and bend that arm so it feels like you're trying to touch your back. Other arm comes over top. You're gonna pull the elbow behind the head. If you want more stretch in this one, you can lean over to the side a little. 10-second hold. And other side. Extend the arm up, let it go behind the back, grab the elbow, and pull over. Get the little lean if you want more stretch. Down to the floor now. We're going to spend about a minute stretching out our wrists. Remember, you guys can sit in the position, keeping the elbows straight. You can do some rocks in the position. And then we're going to make sure that we move the hands to as many different positions as we can. And if you find a certain position is tighter than another, we're going to spend a little bit more time there to try to open it up. If one feels really good, touch it, and then move on to the next one. Find one that feels a little tight, and then spend some time there, rocking back, moving around to try to open up the joint. Now, as we start to get onto the hands more, something that's going to be very, very critical is strength in the wrists. So we're going to go through a strength series for the wrists today to get them ready for the work that you're going to do on your hands. Unless you've spent a lot of time on your hands already, your wrists are going to start to get sore. So we need to make sure that in the warm-up, 1, we stretch, and then 2, we add a little bit of movement, a little bit of strength. So they're prepared for the amount of time that we're going to be spending while standing on our hands. So first one, we're going to go hands down, shoulder width with fingers pointing straight forwards. And all we're gonna do on this one is we're gonna lift the palms off the floor, trying to get nice straight position in the wrist. Let me roll up my sleeves here so you guys can see the wrists a little better. So we're pushing up, wrist nice and straight, and we're coming down. We're gonna do 10 reps. 1, nice and slow. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, for these exercises, if you find that they're difficult, move the knees closer to the hands. It's going to take some of the weight off of the wrists. If you find that they're easy, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to move the knees back so that we have more weight on the wrists. For the next one, I'm going to flip our hands so that our fingers are pointing towards each other, and we're going to be on our knuckles. For this one, we're going to let the wrist come down to the floor, and we're going to push back up to the top. Down, back up, down, back up. So at the top, we're thinking about getting that wrist off the ground. We're not bouncing off the ground. We're pulling that wrist by using strength. 10 reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, for the next one, we're gonna hop onto our fingertips from our palms. So palms flat, hands spread out wide. Little bit of a push on this one up to the fingertips and then back down 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last one. Hands are coming together, fingers pointing straight forwards. This one, most challenging one, is we're gonna be pushing up onto our fingertips. The goal here is to keep the hand nice and straight with the fingers together. Again, use the knees. If it's too hard, bring the knees closer. If it's easier, push them back. 10 reps, pushing all the way up onto the fingertips and back down. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shoulder prep. Gonna go into a front support position and we're gonna do what's called a scap shrug. This one, if you need to do from the knees, no problem there. If you can, let's take it back into a front support. Elbows are gonna stay straight and we're only gonna move from the shoulders. Watch your shape, bum tight, belly up, and shoulders come down and push away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, feel those shoulder blades moving. 6, 7, elbows stay straight. 8, 9, 10. Down to the stomach. And arms out in a T. We're gonna roll over to one side, stretching the shoulder. Trying to get our opposite hand to touch down to the hand that's on the ground. Now, make sure on this one that you're keeping a 90-degree angle between the arm and the body. Use the opposite leg for leverage to try to pull your body further into the stretch. And let's go ahead to the other side. Arm out in T, rolling over. Use that opposite leg for leverage, arm reaching over the top. All right, so little position work is gonna be next. We're gonna do what's called a cat to cow. And what we're practicing on doing is changing the position of our hips. So we have a posterior pelvic tilt and we have an anterior pelvic tilt. It's gonna go up in the knees here. So posterior pelvic tilt is when our bum is tucked under. Anterior is when our bum and our belly are sticking out. So I like to think of it, if my hands were on my hips, if I have posterior pelvic tilt and my hips are the top of a glass, water would be pouring it down my backside, which is my posterior side. Anterior, the hips are turning forwards, which would mean water would be pouring out the front. So it's isolation of moving the hip position. If your hip flexors are tight, it's gonna mean this exercise when we're in a handstand is gonna be more challenging. But for right now, we're just gonna do it with the hands and the knees on the ground. So, doggy drop position here. We're gonna stick the bum and the belly out, trying to get as much arch in the back as we can. And then we're gonna tuck the belly up and squeeze the bum until it's tight. 10 times. 1, 2, 3, get that spine to move as much as possible. 4, 5, 6, 7, at the top, butt needs to be tight. 8, 9, 10. Into a lunge position. For this one today, we're gonna try to get as big of a step as we can to try to open up the back hip. 15 seconds here. Try to pull your belly in, keeping the back as flat as possible. And other side, 15 seconds. Big step, trying to get the hips down nice and low. Belly tucked in, trying to push that hip down to the floor. Okay, down to the belly. We got 10 black burns today. Arms up and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right guys, skill work today. We got 3 pieces. Handstand against the wall. We're gonna be doing some dislocates with our dowel, and then we're gonna be working on some shapes and some positions. Now, with the handstand against the wall, it's a beautiful, beautiful exercise for a couple reasons. Reason number 1, we can modify how difficult it is simply by moving our hands closer or further away from the wall. A lot of the times you'll see people doing handstands where they kick up into a handstand against the wall. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest mistakes that people make when learning the handstands, for the reason that when you kick up into a handstand against the wall, you actually have to kick beyond where the balance point is to catch the wall. This in turn teaches you to kick past the handstand. So instead of kicking up and getting to a point where we're able to balance and hold a handstand, we're actually falling past that point. So if you've been kicking up, you'll see a lot of people won't be able to kick up on the floor, they'll end up falling, or they'll end up having to walk to stay on their hands. So we're not kicking up, we're gonna walk up. The closer the hands get to the wall, the more challenging the handstand is gonna be. So a lot of times when I'm starting out with kids when they're really young, we keep the hands really far away from the wall and we just practice getting on the hands, getting upside down. As we get better, we try to move the hands in until the point where we can almost get our wrist to touch the wall. Now, last time I checked, this wall is perfectly straight. If you're looking to get a straight handstand, well, walk all the way in, try to get your wrist to touch. If you can get there, you're in a straight position, and that's gonna cross over really well to the handstand work on the floor. So, handstand against the wall, we're going hands down, we're walking the feet up, and as we walk feet up, we're gonna try to walk the hands in. We're only gonna let the toes touch the wall. Now, if you can, let's try to walk in as close as we can until we're almost getting those wrists to touch. Here, I do have my ribs touching, my toes are touching, but I'm fighting to push my chin towards the wall to stay in the handstand. If my head starts to come away from the wall, I'm gonna end up falling off of the wall. So for the handstand against the wall, you guys can play with where you wanna put the hands. If you wanna challenge yourself, try to walk those hands in and try to get the chin to touch the wall where you're fully opening up those shoulders. Now, part 2, we got our dowel, we got our broomstick. We're gonna work on some dislocates today. These freak people out a little bit, so I want you to start with a really wide grip on this one. All we're trying to do is we're trying to open up the pecs and work on range of motion in the shoulder, which is gonna cross over to having a good handstand position. So, grabbing onto the dowel as wide as you need to. If it's literally brushing your head as it's going over the top, that's fine, but over time, we're trying to work our hands in. So, we're grabbing on, feet together, and we're gonna circle the bar all the way over our head and all the way back to our bum. When you move the bar around, don't think about moving your hands, think about moving your shoulders. So similar to the shoulder circles we did in the warm-up, we're going to lift the bar, shoulders are in front, not back. I'm gonna lift up, shoulders all the way elevated, and as I come through, I'm pulling my shoulders back and together as they come around. So it's retracting as the bar comes around to my bum. I'm gonna reverse it, rolling the shoulders back through to the front. We would do 5 of these. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. Pay attention to your body. At the back part, you're gonna notice the ribs are gonna wanna come out. Don't let it happen. Keep the bum tight, keep the belly tight. Let the movement come from the shoulders, just like we practiced in warm-up. 5 reps. Once we're done with our 5 reps, we're taking it down to the floor. Now, you have the choice on this one. You can practice your cat to cow 5 times, working on movement of the spine. If that's easy, we're gonna try to take this back to a front support. Now in this position, we have a little bit more tension in the body. As we move from cat to cow, we don't wanna let our bum lift in the air, and we don't wanna let our stomach drop to the ground. I should see a straight line from shoulders to toes, but I should see the hips moving. 5 reps. Now, when we go back up to the handstand, our goal, our focus, is to try to see if we can use what we just practiced. So we're gonna go ahead and walk up, and on this round, I wanna see if we can make that same round shape that we just practiced on the floor. I don't care where your hands are, but I wanna see, is your back round and is your bum tucked under? We don't wanna have bum and belly sticking out. We wanna have ribs lifted up and bum tight. Okay, so that's key number 1 for the handstand. When we're on our hands, can we pull the ribs in and keep the bum tight when we're in our handstand? Key number 2 to the handstand against the wall is, can we push the shoulders all the way up until they touch the ears? I'm gonna say that again. Can we push the shoulders all the way up until they touch our ears? We don't wanna have a space in between the head and the arms. So, first focus is the shape. Ribs lifted, bum tight. Second focus is the shoulders. Can we elevate the shoulders by getting the shoulders to touch our ears? So I'm gonna show you both on this one. Walking to a position again where you feel comfortable. Once we're on our hands, we're gonna push up tall with the shoulders, trying to get the shoulders to touch the ears, and then ribs, round, bum tight. Feel the body working hard to stay in that position. Tension all the way from the hands into the toes. All right, so I want you guys to think of today more like a practice. Use whatever amount of time you want to use against the wall to practice the positions. The focus is on practicing those 2 keys that we just talked about. We're using the shoulders to open up, and we're using the shape in between to understand those positions more closely. Again, focus is on practice. If it's a 10-second hold, if it's a 20-second hold, if it's a 30-second hold, less important, but the important thing is that we're doing it correctly. So make sure the ribs are lifted, bum is tight, and make sure we're trying to push those shoulders all the way to the ears. That's all I want you thinking about. For today, the goal is 5 rounds. 5 handstands with 5 sets of the dislocates and 5 sets of position work. Once you're done with that, we'll jump into the challenge. All right, challenge for the day, guys, is gonna be some basic kick to handstands on the floor, and we're gonna work on keeping our legs in a scissor position. So we're not trying to get the legs together, we're not trying to bounce, but we're trying to practice a good entry into what the handstand will be. So hands go down, and as we go hands down, we're gonna focus on bottom leg bent, top leg is gonna be kicking up into the handstand. We wanna keep the legs wide as we kick up. So all I wanna see from here is just this, as high as you can go. We're feeling a rock onto the hands. Notice the shoulder angle changing from here, where it's more front support position, and then as I kick up, we're pushing those arms to our ears. Just like we practiced when we're against the wall today, we wanna feel those arms pushing all the way up. That's what's gonna make the handstand really strong when you guys get up there. So play around with this one today. Feel what leg feels better on the floor. Maybe your left leg, maybe it's your right leg. Try some kicks, you might even get some bounce. All right, and that's a wrap for session 3, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, hit that bell so you get notified when I drop each new session. Tag me in your work on Instagram so I can see how you guys are progressing and what your shapes are looking like. See you in the next one. Peace.